Bienvenidos a Ciudad de Mexico. Welcome to Mexico City. In this first installment of this 2 video series, I'm going to show you what you can do in this capital city. We're going to start off in the Zocolo, the main square which dates back to the Aztec Mexico days. Bucket list item from my high school Spanish class checked. But really, there's tons to do here. There are plenty of beautiful buildings and colorful murals everywhere, including the highways. And tons of good food, especially how servings of guacamole are greater than the tortilla chips. Alameda Park used to be an Aztec market, and now it is Mexico City's oldest park. It's the setting of Diego Rivera's famous mural, Dream of a Sunday Afternoon in Alameda Park. You'll see it later in this video. You're then going to want to cross the street and enter the Centro Histórico. This beautifully tiled building is the Casa de Los Azulejos. It was a Baroque-style palace in the 18th century and now houses the popular restaurant/store Sanborns. Look, I'm celebrating Cinco de Mayo. Make your way over to Madero Street and you'll see a church. There's the old with the new, such as the Torre Latinoamericana skyscraper, which has an observatory on the 44th floor. Just enjoying walking through Madero Street and this long stretch of stores and historical buildings. Even that Starbucks looks historical here on Madero Street. Just to show how the foundation of Mexico City is kind of shaky because it was built on a lake, look at this church. It looks slanted. And here we are back in the Zocolo, so I will point out a couple of key buildings here. The Palacio Nacional was closed to visitors when we went, but if you're able to get access, they have more of Diego Rivera's murals in there. The Catedral Metropolitana was built upon an Aztec temple, which we'll see some of the remains in a little bit. Today, it's undergoing some renovation. The Templo Mayor was once the Grand Temple of Mexico during the Aztec days before the Spaniards demolished it to build the cathedral. Again, there's the old with the new, and somewhere in between old and new. Head over to the Museo Diego Rivera mural. You can photograph inside for a price cheaper than a coffee at Starbucks. There are works from other artists in the museum, but the main event is the mural Dream of a Sunday Afternoon in Alameda Park. Each person depicted is from real life, and there was a legend to explain them. You can spot a young Diego Rivera and the famous Frida Kahlo. We continued our hunt for murals as part of a group tour. We went to UNAM, a public university, to spot out a few famous murals. Here's a tile piece by Diego Rivera in honor of the 1968 Summer Olympics in Mexico City, and yes, that's the Olympic Stadium. Here's Dates of the History of Mexico by David Siqueiros. Notice those years. The white dot is the safest point in case there's an earthquake. Gotta make note of that. You'll see those white dots throughout the city, as Mexico City has been rocked by strong earthquakes over the years. And here is my favorite, Historical Representation by Culture by Juan O'Gorman on the exterior of the UNAM Central Library. Take a moment to pick out elements of indigenous and European cultures. If running around looking for murals leaves you hungry, grab a taco. These tacos look nothing like the ones you get in the States. For one, they are smaller, but they pack a punch. You can get them filled with anything. You can get tacos anywhere, but we ended up going to the 2 taco places near our hotel, and they belonged to the same management. Because our hotel was located nearby, we spent a lot of time at Chapultepec Park. Eat your heart out in New York City Central Park. It's twice your size. Make note that it's closed on Mondays. This park is huge. It's one of the biggest public parks in the world. Look at this. Look at all the choices we can see here. So many vendors here, which means so many choices for a snack. I was in the mood for corn or elote.
Our first street food here in Mexico City, an elote with everything. Cheese, mayonnaise, chile.
This park is very big, so don't try to do everything in one day. In fact, we visited parts of it over several days. There's plenty to do and see here that you can get overwhelmed easily. That looks fun. There's a train/tram that will take you throughout the park, but since we were trying to get in our steps in for the day, we didn't take it. Sure, why not have a carousel in the middle of the park since they have the space?
Wow, this stretch of the park, there's so many stands. I think we hit the main artery of the park. Just to show how big this park is, we started somewhere around there, walked around for about half an hour, and that's all we got.
So it turns out that we barely made a dent in the first section of the park. Later that week, we tried to get to the second section of the park by taking a couple of footbridges. There are 4 sections to Chapultepec, and I have no idea how to get to sections 3 and 4.
And they still have a lot of stuff to do here in the second section of the park. Look at that. There's a Museum of Natural History, a big lake, a running path, and a little eatery. It's only because we didn't have any excursions or anything else planned today that we had enough time to figure out how to get to the second section of Chapultepec Park. And it's really stunning. Oh wow, it's like a pyramid without venturing out of town to go see a pyramid. And on this side of the park is the Natural Museum of History. What do I think about Sección 2 of Bosque de Chapultepec? Well, it's a lot quieter and more secluded than the first park. They do have museums here like the Museum of Natural History, and it seems like it's much easier to go for a run or ride your bike around here. The problem is it's kind of hard to get to here from where our hotel was, so still not sure how to get here easily. This morning, we're starting off with a walk. I'll walk in the park because we're going to Chapultepec Castle, and it's going to be a long walk too. Here, the word for restroom isn't baño, it's sanitario. So, ¿Dónde está el sanitario? And here we are at Chapultepec Castle, and look at the lines for the entry. Unfortunately, you can't book your tickets online. You actually have to get in line for this. Hopefully this line will go a lot faster than the line at Ticketmaster. That line actually moved pretty quickly. It didn't take us too long to get in, pay our entry fee, pay a locker fee. It's still a bit of a walk uphill to get to the top. Talk about altitude training.
Chapultepec Castle was a real castle and has a complicated history. It was built for the Spanish royalty and then got abandoned during the War of Independence. It was then a military academy during the Mexico-American War. Then it housed some of the Habsburg royalty until their rule came to an abrupt halt. Today, it is a National Museum of History with plenty of murals depicting Mexico's history. Since you're at the top of a hill, you can get some sweeping views of Mexico City. After our first afternoon in the park, we decided to set aside time to have lunch from the street food vendors. It's a tlayuda and sangria. If you have a sweet tooth, don't worry, they got you. And you must try this specialty item.
And this here es muy loco, as in Doriloco. It has everything, like a cucumber, carrots, chili, a gummy shark. And for our last museum here in Mexico City, we're at the Museum of Anthropology. The Museum of Anthropology is actually a lot bigger than it looks on the outside. We only had about an hour and a half to walk through before heading back to the airport, but we easily could have squeezed a few hours out of this museum.
Conveniently, the museum is located in Chapultepec Park. They had exhibits of the indigenous groups in Mexico. If you're into Mesoamerican history, you hit the jackpot here. There are models of Mayan ruins. And here is Tenochtitlan, or Mexico City, back in the Aztec or Mexico days. I hope this video gives you inspiration to visit Mexico City, and I have more tips in the second video. There were so many things to do in Mexico City that I couldn't fit into this episode, just like how there is so much to do in Chapultepec Park.